Hi guys, it's Kelly here and I'm back with another video for Honeybee Stamps. In today's video, we're going to be using our pattern paper a couple of different ways. So I have the Christmas Blessing Stamps and Dies, and then I also have the Lovely Layers Poinsettia and the Winter Greenery. So first things first, I went through the Merry Moments, and this is not the only paper pad that has like scene-ish type paper in there. Adventure Awaits is another one that I know that has like the types of scenes in there. And so I really loved this one with like the evergreens and the berries. And so I knew I wanted that to be my background. So now I just have to create a focal point to go with that background that I know is going to work really well. So I started going through my paper pads. I love the polka dots and pinstripes. We have a couple of different sets with those. Also the gingham, like because we are card makers and it is a smaller, like what is the word that I want? It is eluding me. It's like a smaller work area. So a lot of times smaller patterns work better, especially if you're going to be die cutting out of them, which is part of what I'm going to be doing today. So I've selected one pattern paper to save me from creating a background. I'm going to utilize that. And then I am going to die cut out of the other patterns that I've chose to create my focal point. All of the paper pads from Honeybee are sized to 6 by 8.5, so that means you can cut them at 4 1/4 and end up with two pieces that will fill an A2 size card, and then you'll have like a 1/2 inch to cut off. And then from there, I just kind of went through the papers that I had pulled out. For the poinsettia, I decided to do like 1/2 and 1/2 because one side of the paper is a stripe and the other side of the paper is a polka dot. And so I did the bottom layer a stripe, the second layer a polka dot, so on and so forth. You get what I'm saying. I chose to do the poinsettia leaves out of the darkest green and then the center out of this kind of gold stripe. Now, I'll be honest with you, some of these smaller pieces, you won't necessarily get the benefit of seeing the pattern from them, but some of the bigger ones you will. For this greenery here, this is going to save me so much on coloring because it's already a gradient of color. It's adding more interest to that already, so I don't have to do a ton of work. I'm just really going to add a shadow color. And then for the berries, I did cut them out of this brighter red gingham, but there's a dark red on the opposite side, and so that way I had like two different colors of berries. So we all hoard pattern paper, of course we do, because it's so pretty and we don't want to use it. But when you can convince yourself to use it, it can be really helpful to bring together a quick card. You guys may notice that this video is a little bit shorter than the majority of my videos, and it's because it came together super quickly with all, like, there wasn't very much work for me to do, which sometimes is kind of nice, you know, when we're just trying to get something together. So I'm sorting all my pieces parts here, and then we'll get into the coloring. Here, this very much reminds me of like the 90s kind of scrapbook, like where we were all cutting out of pattern paper, but we weren't really doing anything to make it our own, which there's nothing wrong with that. This just, to me, does not match this paper. So we're going to go in, we're going to add some coloring and add some shading to make it even richer and match the scene that we have in the background there. The other thing is when you're creating a focal point and you're using a pattern that's already in the background, you want it to flow together. So see, normally I would do my flower and then I would like add greenery kind of like to, you know, left and right hand sides. And you can see that the greenery that's coming up is not going with the flow. It's not matching what's happening. So I need to readjust that so that when it is coming up and out from behind my flower, it is working with the greenery that's already in the pattern versus fighting against it by going a completely different direction. For the poinsettias and for parts of the berries, like the lighter colored berries, I am using this color combination. I'm going to color it the same way I do all my lovely layers, which is, I lay down the top layer, I trace that with my lightest color. So this will tell me where to put my darkest shadows, and I do that with all the layers. I do want to mention, just in case you happen to be watching during the premiere or this evening when it goes up, today is the last day of sales for Honeybee, the Cyber Monday sale, and they are doing a buy two, get one free on their paper pads, on their gems. I could not recommend them enough. I love their gems and their pearl stickers, but also on their tools, which is super helpful if you're like looking to stock up on like brushes, or, things like that, where, maybe you buy 2 of the background packs of brushes and then you get one free, and now you walked away with 6 brushes, or the smaller ones, which are 3 and 3, and now you have 9 brushes. So this is like a good time to stock up on those things. And I don't believe there is any code needed. I think it just automatically comes out, the cost comes out of your cart. And today is also the last day where your purchases will enter you into the giveaway. They're doing a $100 gift card per day, and it's been going on since Friday, and every purchase gives you another entry into that. And today is the last day for that, and then they'll announce the winners, I believe tomorrow. So, here I have gone through in all those areas that we marked with the lightest color. I'm now doing the darkest shadow color, and then I'm moving out to my lightest color. Some of you may be like, Kelly, you're completely covering up the pattern. Why did you bother to color it out, like to cut it out of pattern paper? And that is true-ish. When I am done, the light mid-tone and the lightest color in real life, you can see the stripes and the polka dots, but it's not so in your face that it doesn't allow everything to kind of meld together. It's just a little extra layer that adds interest to the flower while still letting the actual flower be the focal point. So the pattern isn't the focal point, the flower is. I hope that makes sense. We want to, basically with this, we want to add that interest and make them something a little bit more, just make them something a little bit more than just a plain flower or a plain leaf. But we still want that richness and dimension that's going to blend in to the pattern that we chose in the background. And if you choose a different type of background, maybe one that's a little bit like those houses, the houses from the Merry Moments, those are a little bit more playful. Maybe you could play around with different patterns, doing a different kind of focal point there. But for this one, because of the paper that I chose, I am trying to make sure everything works together. And then here, I like to double check everything is lined up and how it's going to look when it's all together. I was happy with the way that it was looking, and so I moved on to the berries. So like I said, half the berries I left with the face up for the lighter gingham, and then half of them I left face down for the darker. This golden kind of color, I'm just doing dots of some brighter yellows and darker oranges, warmer browns really, for the center. And then for the berries, I basically just took my darkest color. I did like a little half moon on one side, mid-tone right over that, and then the lightest color filled the rest of the thing in. For the darker berries, I did add an RV 99 and then the R59, R29. For the lighter berries, my darkest color is the R59, just like with the poinsettia, but I only went out all the way out to the 29. I didn't go all the way out to the R32. For the poinsettia leaves here, I actually ended up changing the last color. So I'm using a BG99 and then a G99. So like those nines are matching. And then as I was doing it, I realized I was going to lose all of the pattern if I kept going darker. So I switched it up to a YG, I think it was a 63. Here's that gradient paper that we were looking at before. You could see they were cut out of the same paper, but they look like two totally different leaves. This is great for us. It's going to give us one to be kind of like in the background and one to be a little bit lighter. For the coloring of this, like I said before, I'm literally only using one color. I'm coloring it along the bottom edge of the branches. And for the darker one, I used a YG97. For the lighter one, I'm using a YG95. But then that's all the interest that I am going to add to these little guys because they don't need any more. They already have that gradient going on. For my branch, I did choose some cooler browns because that's the branches that are in the pattern that I chose. But these are going to be a little bit lighter because again, we want them to work together and to complement, but we're creating a focal point. These would be sitting more on top so that they would catch more light. So now we're going to start putting everything together to build out our focal point. So the lovely layers, poinsettia, this comes together super, super easy. This is one of my favorite flowers, especially because, you know, we're prone to make more multiples, I think, in the holiday season. And so having the layers come together really easily, I know I appreciate so much, not having to, chase around the bits. So once I had that all together, there was just one or two areas where I felt like I needed a little bit extra darkness. Don't be afraid to go back in and add those where it makes sense for you to do that. And then here again, I'm going to start. I like a dry fit. I do. If you guys watch my lives, you know that's true. So sometimes we just kind of like default into what feels normal for us, and that doesn't necessarily fit this card the best because it's kind of that top left-hand corner. And so I want to leave the bottom right really open. That's part of what makes it really pretty, right? Is you can just see these little branches. So instead of trying to fill the whole card, I am going to enhance what's already there. So I have the lighter branch and the darker branch. I'm going to cut them apart so that on the left and right hand sides of my flower, I have both colors. So we have the darkest branches, right, that's in the pattern paper, and then I have a medium kind of right on top of that, and then a light on top of that. So it helps it to look like they all go together, but look super dimensional because they're all working together. Here, I wanted to show you, sometimes we have a tendency to want to do like something like catty corner, but when you do that with a card like this where we have that more realistic scene in the background, it makes the floral look like it's a focal point that is completely separate. Like we have cardstock and then we have pattern paper. When you position them so that they're working together, they don't look like two separate entities anymore. Instead, it looks like you have this beautiful like wintry scene, and this floral is kind of like coming out from that, and they're working together. So I added glue to the back of that, smushed it down, picked up everything that I could, and then I'll add glue to that and do the whole thing again. So I typically do try to do my premiere videos like Friday before or over the weekend, but we had such a busy weekend. We were doing, we had Thanksgiving, then Black Friday, then Saturday was the Ohio State Michigan game, so we had Eric's family over for that. And then Sunday was Jelly Bean's dance recital, and then we came home from there and we decorated our Christmas tree. So it was just like go, 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 go. And so I did not get a chance to really work on this until last night, which is why, as I'm doing this voiceover as I'm doing this voiceover, my wonderful husband is making plates downstairs for dinner, because I picked up Jelly Bean, I came home, made dinner in between editing this video, and now I'm doing my voiceover while he's getting everything together so our kids don't starve. Isn't he nice? I do appreciate it. So I will have upcoming stories about the recital and things. So here is the last way that I am going to kind of bring everything together. You can see those white splotches in the background of the snow. I am just going to recreate that with a little bit of, this is a white acrylic spray, but you could also do it with just white acrylic paint and a little bit of water to help it splatter. In addition, I'm going to use that to create my little highlights on my berries and things. You could also use a white gel pen. And then that will really like mesh them together so that they look like they belong. I chose the sentiment from Christmas Blessings. It says, "May God bless your Christmas season with love and joy." I thought that that was very fitting. I did that on a, what is this, blue spruce, I think, from Spellbinders. Not 100%, I'll link it below, with the white heat embossing. And then this is going to be the only thing that I kind of, like, this is how I'm going to create that balance where we have everything in the top left. And then we're going to draw the eye to the bottom right, while not, like I said, we want the balance, but we don't want it to be competing. So I'm going to put the sentiment down there, and then I'm going to use a couple of pearls. These are the Merry Moments pearls. If you are going to go in and you're going to buy any of the pearls or the gems, I would highly recommend the metallics and the, what is it, the grain and grunge one. Those are my favorite. So anywho, I hope that this helps you incorporate your pattern paper a little bit better if you're trying to use up your stash. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I appreciate your time, and I'll catch you on the next video. Bye.